Just before we start, I'd like to get a little sense of who's still in the room. So can I just have a quick show of hands of who's currently contracted directly with the public sector or has previously been directly contracted with the public sector? Okay. How many people have been contracted within the supply chain of the public sector? Not directly, but in the supply chain. Not so many hands. And how many today have never contracted with the public sector and are desperate to do so? Right, good. It just gives me a sense of who I'm talking to. And I really hope that part of what I talk about, whether you're an existing established supplier to the public sector or you're looking to be a potential bidder competing for the business, that will be of interest. So public procurement, as everybody said, is a source of significant spend, currently around 16 billion. Procurement projects are everything from the big infrastructure like roads and bridges and critical public services to IT kits and office supplies. And we're very keen to have a resilient and diverse supply chain. With businesses and third sector organisations of all types and sizes able to bid on relevant public contracts or directly or through subcontracting in our supply chains. And it's not only about making sure our spend goes further in creating jobs and supporting economic growth, nor is it about making sure we do what we can to create good jobs with fair pay and conditions in our supply chains, or even about how serious we are about eking out every last drop of social value that we can from our extensive procurement spend, whether that's through shorter supply chains, through our community benefits and procurement, or through our valued partnerships with third sector and supported businesses. These are all vital components that we're committed to deliver, but with my business hat on, against the backdrop of the economic shocks we've seen, it just makes good business sense to have a resilient and diverse supply chain to protect the robustness and the resilience and continuity of our public services. So we're utterly committed to being as transparent as we can be and reducing barriers to engagement so opportunities can be accessed by as diverse a range of organisations as possible. So I know from talking to supplier and industry representatives that smaller, especially micro and minority-owned businesses face particular challenges in accessing public procurement opportunities. So today, I'd like to outline some of the steps that we've already taken to ensure a level playing field for suppliers, but as importantly, more importantly, the plans we have moving forward. So first and foremost, it's worth saying that the principles of equal treatment, non-discrimination and transparency are deeply enshrined in law. Our domestic legislation requires the equal treatment of all suppliers. And current Scottish legislation actually places a legal obligation through the Sustainable Procurement Duty for public sector authorities to consider how they will use their procurement spend and their procurement processes to facilitate the involvement of SMEs, of third sector organisations, and of supported businesses, legally obligated to consider. And contracting authorities do actually have a great deal of flexibility to design specifications and procurement procedures which are proportionate to the contract size and complexity, which should result in less bureaucratic procurements and simplified processes. I will come back to that. For example, for higher value contracts, those subject to the full procurement rules, buyers must think about splitting contracts into lots to enable smaller companies to bid. And if smaller suppliers are unable to access large contracts, we do encourage and support consortia bidding and the promotion of subcontract opportunities in our supply chains. And where relevant, buyers are encouraged to think around dynamic purchasing systems, which allow suppliers to be added to the contract through the life of the system. And we're seeing more of those. So to ensure public contracts are awarded openly and transparently, we advertise all contract opportunities on Public Contracts Scotland, or as we know it, PCS. And that's for goods and services over the value of 50,000. Below this value, contracting authorities are encouraged to use quick quotes. And the facility of quick quotes is in PCS, and that's where we can identify and select suppliers to bid. And I understand that later today there's going to be a session on quick quotes. So if you haven't used quick quotes, I'd encourage you to go to that. To help you understand the importance of quick quotes, of the roughly 13,000 new public sector opportunities advertised on PCS in 23-24, nearly 10,000 were quick quotes. And the greatest majority of awards through quick quotes was to Scottish suppliers and Scottish SMEs. So anyway, as a result of our work so far and the availability, thankfully, of a robust, resilient, diverse and very innovative SME and third sector supply base in Scotland, SMEs and third sector do have a strong track record in winning public contracts, which you can see the evidence of in the Minister's annual report. Nick mentioned the annual report. You saw the video. I don't want to repeat anything that he said, but I might just pick out a couple of stats. One is that of all the contracts awarded through PCS, of all the suppliers awarded contracts through PCS, 78% of those suppliers were SMEs, and at least 55 pence in every pound spent with suppliers in Scotland went to an SME. And I was also delighted to see an increase in third sector spend at 1.1 billion. And with my social value hat on, I found it really reassuring to know that around almost 50% of all public procurement spend in Scotland was with suppliers based in 60% most deprived areas in Scotland. Now that's all good and well, but I'm sure you're maybe thinking, those of you who are new to this or are struggling to keep the business with the public sector, that's lovely, Nikki, but how do I get a good slice of that? Well, we're committed to do more, and we're continually exploring new ways to reach out and engage with potential bidders and simplify and streamline our processes. And as part of that, we're committed to delivering and developing business-friendly, easy-to-access policy, guidance and support, and consulting with industry and third sector in testing and informing our procurement policies and approaches. Okay, so last June, as a direct result of feedback from businesses and third sector, we published new guidance on how to engage, how to find public sector contract opportunities and how to bid successfully for contracts. And that guidance provides one-stop shop access to a comprehensive and joined up set of resources that should hopefully help to demystify a bit public procurement. And to support smaller organisations in submitting and winning bids. The guidance was developed collaboratively with a lot of input and feedback from businesses and third sector organisational groups, and includes sources of support, hints and tips, frequently asked questions, and it also provides some really interesting case studies from SMEs and micro businesses, which I hope you might take some lessons from. So we've been promoting the guidance at supplier events such as this one, and we've made it available on our supplier journey. And I thought it might be worthwhile just summarising some of those sources of support. But for more information, I would encourage you, if you've not already, I saw a few phones up, scan the QR code, visit our Scottish Government stand, which doesn't have a Scottish Government sign up, but it's right beside the e-commerce stands, and talk to our our subject matter experts. On the supply engagement wheel, starting at the 12 o'clock, if you can see it there, you can engage through Meet the Buyer events, such as this one, from the Supplier Development Programme. We have the P4H events run by NHS National Procurement, and we've got our Procurex events and our Scottish Government National Conference later this year. Next on the wheel is the Public Contracts Scotland portal, PCS, which, as I said, aims to make it as easy as possible for businesses to do business with us and find opportunities. By registering on that portal, you will receive proactive prompts on any contracting opportunities that you have expressed an interest in. So if you set yourself up in there and register and say what you're interested in, you will receive those proactive prompts. We will come to you, and that saves you the resource and hassle of researching all public sector websites. So I hope it takes some of the pressure away from you. And in other words, actually you'll see PCS features quite frequently on this wheel. And I would say if you're interested in public sector contracts, don't only register in PCS, complete your supplier finder profile. The supplier finder profile basically lays out what products and services it is that you offer. And that allows our buyers to know who you are, know what you provide, and consider your offerings when they're looking at quick quotes so that they can invite you to bid. If you do not say what you provide, if you are not registered, we don't know who you are, we don't know what you do. So that's the first step. PCS also lists current tender opportunities, low value opportunities and innovation opportunities, which are often of most interest to SMEs and to third sector. It also includes a search functionality for contract award notices, allowing you to see who the public sector are currently contracting with so that you can consider whether what you offer might actually be a really good addition to the supply chain and allow you to contact them directly to try to go after that opportunity. Next on the wheel, the supplier journey provides online, easy-to-access guidance information and lessons learned for suppliers intending to submit a bid. And where needed, it signposts additional support. And it directly maps what the public sector buyers do in their processes. So by following that, it will help you to set out and follow what the buyers need to see. Next up on the wheel today are hosts. The Supplier Development Programme deliver free training and assist SMEs and third sector organisations in all aspects of tendering, helping to improve bidder prospects in winning submitting and hopefully winning bids. And that's in addition to these Meet the Buyer events, which put suppliers in touch with the buyers and as everybody said, are being held right across Scotland. I attended one in Aberdeen, one in Langham. We've had part of my team over in Tayside, and there's others coming up. We're not just in the Central Belt. I've already mentioned PCS, but so next is we recognise that SMEs are amongst the most innovative of suppliers, and Scottish Government have launched an innovation portal called Scotland Innovates. Now, it's aimed at allowing businesses to submit their innovative proposals to any part or all of the public sector. And the online service also provides information, guidance and support for innovators looking to help create a more innovative public service in Scotland. The greatest majority of organisations who enter bids through that or use that service are SMEs. And specifically, in relation to bids from suppliers based in Scotland, 93% of them are SMEs. Beyond the innovation portal, as part of our sustainable duty to promote innovation, buyers are now asked to register if innovation is being procured when they create their contract adverts and their contract awards for regulated procurements. And initial indications, this is initial indications, hot off the press, a bit more to do, is that around 18% of those contracts identified by buyers as being innovative are being won by micros. A further 30% by small organisations, 27% by medium-sized organisations, leaving 25% with larger businesses and organisations. That's very interesting. Finally, on the wheel, the single point of inquiry offers an impartial and where necessary confidential service for businesses with concerns about particular procurement exercises carried out by Scottish contracting authorities. Now, that service can be used for current or recent perceived breaches of procurement policy, where bidders have been unable to resolve that first and directly with the main contractor or the public contracting authority at the top of the supply chain. So clearly suppliers need to provide the details and evidence of the perceived breach to enable an effective investigation, but that is there for you. And these are just a few of our sources of support. There's so much more, user manuals, webinars, videos, so please do visit our stand, scan the QR code and speak to the team. So this is a continuing journey. As I said, we're committed to doing more to drive improvements in access and to maximise the impact of our procurement spend. We actively do seek industry and third sector feedback to test and inform our approaches. We explore any means available to address identified barriers, and we are adapting our approaches as we go. We won't always get it right. We know that, and that's why we're continuing to listen, to ask, to listen, to learn. And that includes continued research and engagement to understand what's going well or better because of what we're taking action on, and what still needs to be addressed, and what more we can do or do differently. So we regularly undertake and publish surveys and research, including research on the impact of the sustainable procurement duty, supplier surveys, with over 1,500 responses to our last supplier survey, and more targeted surveys. For example, we did one on digging down into the views and experiences of third sector organisations and new businesses, startups, in relation to winning a slice of the Scottish public procurement spend. And we review research by others, so that includes the 22 research conducted by SNOOC and the Scottish Council of Voluntary Organisations, and research that same year by the Scottish Government into barriers being experienced from third sector that's stopping collaboration between third and public sector. But importantly, we're acting on our findings. So, for example, feedback from the supplier survey told us that prompt payment and cash flow continues to be a particular issue for SMEs. So we consulted with both public, private and third sector, and we issued updated policy with guidance and sources of support to ensure contracting authorities take steps to pay invoices more quickly and to ensure that they flow that payment down through their supply chain without delay. And we've been supporting its implementation. We plan to run another supplier survey later this year, so I'd encourage you to look out for that and to respond to help shape our future focus and priorities. And if you're registered in PCS, you can respond to our annual customer satisfaction survey there, sent to both buyers and suppliers, to understand their experiences as a PCS user, and that helps us identify where we can improve our systems. And we do a continued rolling programme of improvement on the system. From an engagement perspective, the procurement supply group is a critical partner to us, and they offer a challenge function on behalf of their members, actively supporting us in testing and informing our approaches. And as well as the supplier development programme who sit in it, the group includes organisations like the Federation of Small Businesses, the Scottish Council for Development and Industry, Construction Scotland, Social Enterprise Network Scotland, Scottish Council of Voluntary Organisations. The list goes on, and it's a very active forum. The Construction Leadership Forum and Accord is another critical enabler chaired at ministerial level, helping to ensure effective collaboration between the public sector and the construction industry. And that forum's work is very wide-reaching, but it includes the aim of improving and simplifying and getting better quality out of construction procurement practices. And we supplement all that I've described with ongoing SME and third sector roundtables and participating in conferences and industry events to hear about the lived experiences of SMEs and the challenges being faced. And that included a procurement workshop at the Business and Parliament event last year. Consistent feedback from that is, all right, we're seeing an improvement in policy, but there is a need to drive more local consistency on the application of sustainable procurement policy and practice. It's not consistent across all areas in Scotland, and we need to do more to break down the barriers for micros and smaller businesses, particularly minority-led. And also, the consistent feedback is, how do we encourage earlier engagement of the market in procurement processes to have more time to respond? So, you know, those are big priority topics for us. We've heard that, we're working on it, we're looking at it, and I'll come back to that. What I would say is feedback's also provided clarity on some of the gaps of understanding or the misconceptions that hold businesses back. For example, for all SMEs operating in Scotland, the data shows us only about 53,000 user registrations in PCS who've indicated an interest in doing business with us and that take advantage of the current sources of support. And of those, almost 90% identify as an SME. So that's why we've decided that attending events like this to get the word out, to say if you do nothing else, get registered, fill in your supplier finder profile, is so important. And in driving continuous improvement, in April last year, after a collaborative effort working across the public sector, and as Nick mentioned, we published the Public Procurement Strategy for Scotland with a high-level vision to underpin consistency across Scotland, and that specifically commits to removing barriers and enabling participation. And 1 year on, we are seeing some fantastic examples. I don't perhaps have time to go into those, but Couple, Fife Council have updated their scheme of tender procedures, now directly aligned to the strategy, in particular the focus on SMEs, third sector supported businesses. And the Scottish Government has launched a new supported businesses dynamic purchasing system, DPS, which replaces the original national framework for commodities reserved for supported businesses. And the key aim of that DPS is to provide the Scottish public sector and third sector bodies, because they can access it too, with a clear path for the purchase of goods and services for supported businesses. And suppliers who wish to participate in that DPS firstly register on PCS and PCS tender, and you can find out more details at our stand. In January, we published our Scottish Government annual procurement report to reflect performance against the procurement strategy for Scottish Government procurements. And we also published our forward-looking Scottish Government strategy at the end of March, looking out over the next 4 years, describing how we plan to carry out our procurements, our priorities, and we review that every year to make sure it remains ambitious. Importantly, the annual reports against the strategies set out not just the performance against contracts set up in the period, but they produce a forward look, a forward pipeline of frameworks and contracts that they're planned to kick off and start procuring over the next couple of years. Earlier this year, the Scottish Procurement conducted an inquiry into our 2014 Procurement Reform Act to see if it was working as planned. And it was good to see a diverse and wide-ranging feedback through the consultation. So thank you to any of you who provided input to it. We'll respond to the findings of that committee in due course. And building on the feedback and learnings from engagement surveys and consultations supporting the New Deal for Business, we've recently launched an SME and third sector action plan. So that's setting out what we're going to focus on over this next year. And the aim of that action plan is to further consider how procurements are conducted and contracts are developed to reduce barriers, to promote innovation, and to remove and to try to improve those opportunities for SME and third sector organisations. So in summary, we want to work with you to create a level playing field. That's why these events are so important to us. And while there's a good deal of support currently available, we're far from finished. We'll continue to engage with industry and third sector to learn what more we can do. I recognise that not every supplier wishes to bid for work in the public sector, but the fact that you're here suggests you do. So please take advantage of the support available to you. Register in PCS, complete your supplier finder profile. No apologies for keeping mentioning that. Attend the quick quote session, meet and talk to our team at the Scottish Government stand. And as the old saying says, you've got to be in it to win it. I'll happily invite questions if there's any time left at all remaining in this session, or to answer questions in the panel. However, you prefer to speak to me directly or to my team, come visit us at the stand later. Thank you.